I'm now pleased to introduce you to today's speakers, two of my personal favorites, Alicia Davis and Stacy Watson. Alicia is a professional certified coach, former Connecticut licensed massage therapist, and partner in the coaching firm Transformative Leadership Strategies. She brings over 30 years of leadership development experience in the fields of holistic healthcare, social services, and behavioral health nonprofits, insurance, engineering, and corporate settings. Stacy is a certified professional coach, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and an owner-partner in Transformative Leadership Strategies. Stacy brings 3 decades of experience supporting leaders in a behavioral health setting, employee assistance programs, and medical health insurance organizations. So without further ado, I will turn it over to them.
Welcome, everyone, and it's so nice to have you here, whether we can see you or not. And yes, Kathleen, keep your video on if you'd like, and anybody else who would like to, please feel free. We love faces, and we also know sometimes things happen in the background. So I'm Alicia, Stacy, and we've been doing things with the Women's Consortium now for a number of years. And oh, there's Marcia.
Hey, Marcia.
So today is all about self-care, Stace. Help is here.
Boy.
Care for the caregiver.
Right? We need it these days.
This is my favorite topic.
I know.
I've been doing this topic for years, and you and I have been doing it together. And so before I was a coach, I did holistic healthcare. So I was a massage therapist and did all kinds of mind, body, caring for self and while caring for others. And, you know, this is for family members with loved ones that may be struggling in some ways. And Stace, I know you have worked, on the therapy side with families who are,
yes,
who are challenged, right?
Absolutely. I think everything from being a working mom and being a, person trying to juggle 1,000 balls at one time to working from a professional perspective with families. Absolutely. And right now, in this moment that we're all experiencing, I feel like our focus is pulled in so many directions, and we rarely, if ever, just give ourselves permission to just think about ourselves, because I think we somehow think it's selfish, right?
Well, yes, I think especially too as moms. Marcia, I know you are a mom on the phone, and we may have other moms as well. So, I think that anytime we take time for ourselves, we often can feel like we are taking away from others.
Yes.
And really what we want to just offer today is some very simple self-care practices that you can do in moments at a time. So it doesn't take a lot of time. And it's also much more about the mindset of self-care sometimes than it even is the actual things that you're doing for self-care. Right? So I'm gonna actually pull up our slides, Stace.
Yeah, let's do it. I love that little guy that we start with.
Pop it on the head, right?
That's
like
it.
Self-care for the caregiver. And I guess this is the other thing too, whether the folks on the phone, whether you're, moms or dads or clinical, caregivers, we are all in some way caring for someone, ourselves. And this is one of the things we talk about in session stasis, putting on our oxygen mask.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, for anyone that's been on a plane, if we could remember way back when we could do that, right? What the flight attendant will say is if there's turbulence or a problem, if you're traveling with younger people, put your mask on first. And I know as a mom, it can feel a little counterintuitive. Like I want to care for this person who's trusting me, right? That I'm supposed to be caring for. And the truth is, if I'm not able to, take care of myself, if I'm incapacitated in some way, I'm no good to my child or to the person in my care. So really, I think today we're just giving everyone permission for the next, however many minutes, right? That we're going to be together, that we can really just focus on ourselves and we can really just explore ways that we can care for ourselves.
That's right. And we usually like to be interactive. It's not usual for us to be kind of one directional. So we'll just see if anybody can do this on the call. If not, we'll just talk about this, but we're going to use a poll. And so the poll, if you can access it, great. And if not, we'll just chat about it for a minute. But the poll is a question about what gets in the way of self-care. Because we just want to help to figure out if there's something that is challenging that we make sure that we include it in our conversation tonight. So what gets in the way? You know, we can often say we don't have enough time, or we don't think about it, or it doesn't feel like a priority. Or maybe we're not even sure what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that you already talked about, Stace, maybe we feel guilty.
Right. And these polls are anonymous, so if you are able to take it, no one knows who says what, and you can pick more than one answer if more than one rings a bell.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica. So Erica's just saying, not a priority. Not making myself a priority, right?
Yeah.
Everybody else comes first. Oprah says it. Oprah says, you know, you got to put yourself on the list first.
That's right. Absolutely.
So I think that is just really, and Erica, thank you for the chat, and everybody else, please feel free to write in the chat as well. Kathleen, thank you. Yeah, no time. How many of us have said we have no time?
Right. I mean,
all of us.
All of
right?
us. I think we all fall sort of into that bucket of just having all the reasons, and mostly that we don't feel like we have time.
That's right. And so part of what we just want to do tonight is really, first of all, identify what areas maybe you would benefit from having a moment or two of self-care. And then we're going to give you lots of ideas. And part of what we want to do tonight is really help you maybe just consider one thing. And if the one thing is just to make yourself a priority every once in a while, then great. Then at least that is perhaps a new habit or a new possibility. And we want to give some really tangible options. So we also, I know Shannon sent a handout to everyone, so you folks have this. And this is a self-care wheel that we use in our coaching. And we actually, I realized we didn't put instructions here, Stace, but we have them on the actual handout, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to describe this, and I'll pull up the handout.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, we're human beings, right? We're complicated creatures. We have a lot going on, and our lives are complex. I mean, everyone's life is complex. And what I really like, and the reason that we love to use this particular wheel, is because it allows us to think about different facets of our life, because it's not one size fit all, right? I mean, maybe I am a person who tends to, you know, be very social, and even in these social and physical distancing times, I'm staying connected to people, but perhaps I'm not really taking care of myself physically. Maybe it's just been hot, I haven't been outside as much, what have you, right? So this wheel just gives you an opportunity to think about these different facets of your life, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being, I got this, I'm rocking it, right? I'm rocking the emotional care. And then 1 being, I am really, really, really struggling, and everything in between, just to circle or just to indicate on your handout or even on the slide, where do you fall, right? So it's just, and again, we really always emphasize it's not about judgment, right?
That's
we are
right.
not doing this so that anybody feels critical about any of the reality they're experiencing right now. It's really just, as you said, Alicia, just to think about it. Maybe we just didn't even think about it.
That's right. So it's just awareness. And I'm so glad you said that, Stace, that we really want you to look at this as a way to be more connected to yourself, and to just see in this moment, it's really a snapshot today even.
Yes.
And just take a moment, like right now, literally, and just circle on those scales of 1 to 10 how you're feeling about your mental well-being. And, you know, we've actually been talking a lot with a lot of leaders and a lot of folks that we're coaching, that people are on such a mental and emotional exhaustion because of COVID, because of all of the decisions, because of just everything that people are worried about. And so, you know, maybe, you know, mental might be a 3 or a 4.
That's
And,
right.
maybe physical, like you said, like I just got off my Peloton bike. Like I'm committed to doing that 2 or 3 times a week. Like that's my go-to right now. So for me, maybe my physical is 6 or 7. And actually, you know what? We should probably talk about what environmental and social is, Stace, in terms of what these pieces of this self-care wheel mean.
Well, I'll touch on environmental because let's face it, right now, the environments that we're all living and perhaps working and existing in, like for some of us, it's all the same place, right? So the environmental pieces around just having space and boundaries and being able to focus and all the things that perhaps we took for granted 6 months ago. And now maybe we have children at home that are trying to do school, or we're all going to be starting that in a few weeks. And so what, environmental, I feel, has taken on even more of a level of importance. I mean, it probably always has been important. And what we're hearing in our coaching is that depending on the environment that a person is sort of living and working in, it can really add a lot of stress, right?
That's right. That's right. And even, and then you add on top of it just the craziness of having a storm, for example, and people don't have power and it's 90 degrees out, right? Like
Exactly.
environmental is literally the space that you are living in, working in, and existing in. And to your point, Stace, sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're not. And
That's
And
right.
social is really about how are you getting, again, connection outside of what is happening between the 4 walls of your home. And that has completely changed. And we're going to talk
Yes.
about that. So the
Yes.
idea of this, just as we've said this, perhaps you've maybe circled something on the 1 to 10 between any of these. So what we want you to do now, and I don't actually have a picture of it, but what I want you to do is just connect the dots. So let's say you had a 7 on mental and a 5 on emotional and a 8 on physical, 3 on environmental, whatever your numbers were, just connect them around on the circle. And then what I want to know is did anybody have a wheel that would roll? So anybody have a wheel? Thumbs up if your wheel rolls, thumbs down if it's clumping along. And Kathleen is laughing, Shannon is laughing. So, Stace,
I
so
think we're
these
clumping.
wheels, we're clumping or we're deflated. Like sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Exactly. Right.
Just not enough air in the tire. So it's just a great visual. And so just use this. And the other thing is, please, please, please also celebrate the areas that you feel that you are taking some care in, because
Yes.
that really matters. And we don't celebrate ourselves enough. And the more that we can celebrate and really notice the things that we are doing, the better.
Well, and can I just say one more thing about the wheel? Whatever
Yes.
number you may have circled, maybe you circled a 3, maybe you circled a 6. And if you would like that number to be different, I would invite you to just think about it being one number different, right? So if I
Yes.
was a 3 and I was just going to go to 4, what might one thing that I could do, what might that be to help me just shift from a 3 to a 4? I also think sometimes when we're talking with caregivers, they're like trying to be supermen and women and people, right? They're trying to just put it all on their backs and carry it by themselves. And that's great. And it can be really challenging. So even small, and I know this is exactly where we're going, but even
Yes.
small ways shifting from 3 to 4 can make a big difference in terms of how we're feeling about caring for ourselves.
That's right. That's right. And we want to introduce a concept that maybe you've considered in the past and maybe you haven't. We talk about self-care or well-being, whichever way you want to describe it, in micro ways and macro ways. And micro means those moments of time. A moment, an intention, a minute. Macro is maybe a little bit longer period of time. So, and we often think of self-care blocks of time, I think, Stace. And, we actually, oftentimes when we talk about self-care, we often start with the physical because that's kind of the obvious one, right? And we very intentionally started with the spiritual. And you're going to notice we went spiritual, mental, emotional. And we did that very specifically because when you feel spiritually connected, and this is not religious in any way, spiritual in the sense of how do you feel connected to yourself? How do you feel connected to something bigger than you, whatever that is? How do you feel connected to nature? Or how can you just take moments of time and really kind of get out of your own head and even just look out a little bit bigger, right? So we want to just offer the idea that spiritual practice can be anything from reading an inspirational quote to looking out the window and just really noticing the sunrise. Like I've been really noticing the pink and orange skies the last few nights, and just literally pausing, looking out the window, or when we're walking the dogs, just really literally pausing and just taking it in.
Yes. Yeah.
And that can be a moment of self-care.
Yeah, it so can. And I think this is one that we do often overlook or really not consider. And this one can bring a lot of peace. I mean, even if it's about, I know we have on here visualizing a special place. I mean, you and I both love the beach, right? And so even just being able to just sit and remember a wonderful experience there. I mean, it's not the same as being there, and it can bring just that moment of feeling connected to that feeling, that experience that we had when we were there. And that can be a micro practice.
That's right. And then, and of course, now we have these on here of like taking a trip somewhere special. Well, none of us are really taking any trips anywhere right now. And, maybe you can take a walk around the neighborhood and just, or literally go outside in your garden and smell a rose, or, it's more about, or Stace, I know you have in the backyard a new hammock.
Exactly, which is a very spiritual practice, let me say.
It is.
Maybe not when it's 90 degrees, but yes, I think it's just, and just to be reminded of what it's like to be in the moment, just spend time around a little kid or a dog, because they are, always in the moment, right? They're just right there sniffing that flower, looking at that squirrel, whatever it is. And I think just being outside, and I know it's hot, and just moments of being outside really can tap into that.
That's right. So being out in nature. And then we want to talk about mental self-care. And we actually just did our newsletter today around mental and mindfulness or awareness about our mind state.
Yeah.
And because we are all, again, we're very much on overdrive. So what are some ideas that we had about mental self-care practices, Stace?
Well, I mean, you were forced into a technology timeout when the storm came, right? You had no internet. And I think for many of us, we're very much connected to our devices, whatever they might be, smartphone, computer, tablets, TVs, whatever it is. And there's so much information coming at us all the time around the coronavirus. And so I think that it's really helpful to be able to just take a few moments. But again, it's around being intentional, right? So it's saying that I'm putting my phone down and I'm intentionally going to take a few deep breaths, or I'm going to read a chapter out of a book, or look at a magazine that I've been intending to look at. Whatever it is, it's like giving our brains a rest in that we're not caught up in the topsy-turviness of the life that we've had these last several months, and we're allowing ourselves to just maybe do something a little different that gives our brain a rest. It's almost like we go to the gym, and if we use the same muscle over and over and over again, eventually we're going to be exhausted. So yeah,
that's right.
Definitely.
Kathleen, what's a magazine? Come on, Kathleen.
Oh wait, I had one from this morning. I don't know. Here, this is a magazine.
There you go. Well, and then we wanted to also touch on the the emotional aspects of the, just really of this holistic approach to our self-care. And again, we're just touching on each of these tonight, right? And emotional is really very much about what are we noticing about our feelings? And we have just been talking to so many people, and ourselves included, like we have been for the last few months on this roller coaster. And not only just, you for yourself, if you are also, caring for a family member and, a son, a daughter, and, whoever you are caring for, whatever the emotional or mental state they're in, you're going to probably be influenced by them and their energy. And so part of this is really just helping yourself have a little bit of stability within yourself. And we love gratitude practice. And gratitude practice is very heart connecting. It's very simple in the sense of literally it is about thinking about or writing down one or two things that you're grateful for. And, journaling about that, seeing it written down can also be very powerful. Thanking people or appreciating, everyone. Or, we had on here, actually, I'll just share, I did something that hurt someone's feelings today. And it took me a little while to say I'm sorry. And I actually apologized, and I said, I was sorry for what I did in hurting her feelings, and I apologized for not apologizing sooner because I knew I did it. So, it's things like that. And it takes moments, right? But it's just really acknowledging, what am I feeling? And what are the people that are in my world here? What are they feeling? And how can we make some space for caring for our feelings?
Yeah, this last line on this slide, if I'm upset with someone, I want to pause and notice my reaction. One of the things that I think we're hearing and experiencing, and maybe this is what happened to you, Alicia, is that we have so many emotions happening at the same time, especially at this time, right? So it can be fear. We can feel lost because we can't live the life that we sort of thought we would, or we would want to be living, and things have changed. And the reaction to that can be snapping at someone in our in our home, or someone that we love, or, it can come out, as they say, sideways, right? And so this is really about just taking a moment to just connect to, why did I feel like I wanted to snap, or why did I snap? And maybe there's something deeper going on, and that's what I want to be thinking about or trying to care for.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's always about your own reaction, right? Nobody makes you feel any way. You are responsible for your own thoughts and feelings and reactions to things. And so it's just slowing down a little bit to be able to notice them. And we're actually going to pause right here to do just a little mini practice of just that slowing down and literally just connecting with our breath. And so we're literally going to do this for a minute or 2 minutes max. And it's really it's just very simple. It's literally like, just sit back, sit kind of upright. And if you want to, just close your eyes for the next few moments. And if you don't want to close your eyes, look at what's on the screen, or soft gaze, so that you're not looking at anybody else, because it's not about anybody else. Again, remember, this is about, how do you recognize, and how do you just give yourself the permission to have moments of time for yourself? And a moment of time for yourself can literally be closing your eyes and turning your attention to your breath. And very often when we close our eyes, we might notice sounds. We might notice that our mind is thinking a lot. And that's okay. And part of this is literally just to put your attention on something that you don't pay attention to very often, and that is always happening, which is your breathing. And all I'm just going to invite you to do is just notice where your breath goes in your body. Because when you notice where your breath goes, it goes into your nose, your mouth, your throat, your lungs. And then if you can really just soften your belly a little bit, your breath might go even lower. And you might really be able to feel breath moving your body. So as you breathe in, maybe you notice expansion. And as you exhale, maybe you notice a little softening, or maybe a little bit of a release, or a little bit more space. And all I'm going to invite you to do for the next 3 breaths is, as much as possible, just let your attention really anchor on that breath going in and the breath going out. Because when you can anchor to that breath, when you can just notice that breath, what you're doing is you are bringing yourself to your own center. The center of your feelings, your heart, the center of your body, and literally the center of your breath. And just doing that, just for a minute, or even for 3 belly breaths, can really just begin to shift you out of a stress or a anxiety moment into just a little bit more of a peaceful and calm moment. And so then when you're ready, just bring your attention back into the room just by, if you had your eyes closed, you can open them. If you had your eyes open, just maybe put your glasses back on, or maybe you yawn, maybe you stretch, because sometimes even just doing that for a minute, Stace, we can get a little sleepy.
Oh, yeah.
Because many of us are having issues with sleeping. And the idea of this is that just literally those kind of breaths can really calm your nervous system down, can help with sleep. So doing that before you go to bed can be a helpful thing too.
Yes, instead of surfing on the internet or
Instead of that.
getting
That's
lost
right.
in YouTube. Exactly. Yes.
That's right. So I would just invite everyone just to notice what happened in that minute, that 2 minutes, those few breaths. What did you notice? Did you notice any more ease? Did you notice any softening? Did you notice just even an awareness of yourself that maybe you didn't have before? And these are practices of self-care, right, Stace?
They are. And I love when we do that because it's so simple. And even when we have very busy days, which I know everyone on this call has very busy days, even finding just a moment or two to take those 2 or 3 deep breaths can really just help recenter and shift a little bit, especially when we're going into something that we know might be more challenging, right?
That's right. Or coming out of a conversation or something that was difficult, like we just have to take,
sure.
right? And I just want to share, I'm going to put it in the chat. I don't know if folks will see it in the recording, but I'm just going to share one of our favorite apps. It's called Insight Timer, INSIGHT, timer.com. Has some great guided relaxation self-care practices. So Stacey, you want to talk about our physical well-being and self-care?
Well,
And
since I was just telling you,
and environmental, I'm going to turn the fan towards me because I'm having a hot flash.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you asked me to speak on physical, since I literally said to you earlier today, I have got to get back into an exercise pattern that works, because I'm having a hard time getting anything to stick. And, what I just said is what we do, right? Because I'm thinking, okay, I need to have 30 minutes and I need to be able to commit to this. And really, when we're thinking about any of these, and as we're talking about physical, it can really be as simple as remembering to stand up. I mean, we are in front of our computers right now, many of us, all day, every day. And being able just to stand up, walk around the room. If you don't have to be on the video, perhaps you're walking with your phone. Even if you're just walking inside where perhaps you have air conditioning or a fan because it is so hot outside. Or just doing some stretching. For a while I was doing yoga regularly, which I'm hoping to get back to. And sometimes it was really just 5 or 10 minutes of stretching, or sometimes I had more time and I could do more of a full practice. I think it's just, again, really giving ourselves permission to first find things that we enjoy to do, and then just doing them in whatever moment we can, and not making it feel like another big task on a busy to-do list.
That's right. And I think what you're saying, that for me, I do 5 or 10 minutes of stretching in the morning. I've done it for years. If I don't do it, I feel off.
Mm.
I don't feel loose, and even mentally. And it's not any big deal. I just do a little bit. And for me, I have to say, I am blessed. I have a Peloton bike. I've had it for about a year and a half now. And if I did not have that bike right now, I think I would be having so much of a harder time mentally and emotionally, because I am someone that needs that physical activity at least 3 times, 30 minutes. Like, I need to have that. And I was actually just talking to my partner, and she's been sitting just like so many of us have, and we were just talking about maybe we need to get her a standing desk, right? So she can stand more during the day while she's working. So it's just considering whatever those different, whether it's movement, whether it's, you could be sitting and binge watching something on Netflix and, lift 5 pounds, upper body stuff. It can be super simple.
That's right. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And finding things we enjoy when it comes to physical, I think, is a big help.
It's huge. It's huge. Because if you don't like it, forget about it.
That's right. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And then, just as we talk about these last couple of areas, right, we already spoke to this environmental a little bit. And I think anything that we're doing right now that, we've been hearing a lot on the calls that we've been doing with care providers, whether they're, again, caring for family members or caring more in a clinical setting, that just this way of even having some boundaries, being able to say, when I'm sitting on this cushion of the couch, I'm working. Right? This is literally what somebody said on one of our calls. When I'm sitting on the end cushion, I'm working. When I'm sitting on the middle cushion, I'm home and relaxing and with my family, because that was the only space that she had.
Right.
So, right, it's really looking at how can you create a space, even if it's something as simple as putting fresh flowers on the table or hanging a picture or doing something that really makes
I have something.
What?
Well, I was just going to say something that sparks joy. Get a little shout out to Marie Kondo, right? But this whole idea of really finding things in your environment that you love and moving them around. My mother-in-law, she lives with us, and what she does is she moves her pictures around. She doesn't buy new art because she's 80. She's quit accumulating things, but she moves her pictures around because she says she notices them when they are in a different place. So every 2 or 3 months, I'll go into her apartment here at our house. That's and so true. Yeah. I'll notice something I'd never noticed before, even though it's been hanging there for 3 years. So it's not about buying things necessarily. It's just about finding those things that bring us joy and then putting them in our environment in a way that we can really appreciate and cherish them. And that is a micro practice for our environment, right?
Well, it's so interesting. So one thing that you just said, our brains, once we see things for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they start becoming part of the background. So what your mother-in-law is doing is amazing, because that it's completely shifting the focus, the attention, because then you see it again. And I have to say, and this was completely unplanned, but one of the things that I have here on my table, like I have a quartz crystal and I have a keychain. So rose quartz is for love. And I have actually a keychain that Colette from the Women's Consortium gave me from the conference, and it's a lotus. And it's exactly what you just said. And I didn't even, I put it here and I subconsciously think about, I feel the connection of lotus. I feel the connection to, everyone here on the Women's Consortium, but it's just there. And even though sometimes I don't notice it, it's still there, and it still nourishes me. So it can be things just like that can Absolutely. Really make a difference, right?
Make a huge difference, right? And this is a good one with kids as well, because I think sometimes we don't necessarily think about this, and we're not necessarily talking about it with our kids. And if we can help them really find ways to be in their space that do bring them joy or they feel very connected to, and move things around a little bit and do that together, that can be a really very powerful bonding experience with kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, our granddaughters, like their mom is very crafty. And so like they like made stencils and they like painted on their walls and they did it, right? So it's something that they did together, and it's something that, they can be really proud of, and it brings them joy, right? Like, so it's
Love
all
that.
of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this last practice, this last aspect of the self-care wheel, I think this is probably one of our hardest ones right now, Stace, right?
It
Because
so
social,
is.
we're social, and Tara Brock, she's a meditation mindfulness teacher, and she was sharing, we listened to one of her webinars a while ago, and she was talking about, even though we're social distancing, or we're, how does she say it, Stace, even though we're physical distancing, we don't have to emotional distance, right?
We're heart connected, right? So we're connected with our hearts even when our bodies are disconnected. Right. We're physically disconnected. So yes, absolutely. And this one I think is a little bit of a sneaky one, because I think we have so much input coming in, we might forget how much we're missing this, right? We feel like we're just, talking about people, and maybe we're talking to people through a screen, and we may forget what it's like to be hugging people that we love, or to be with people who don't live in the state with us, or whatever it may be. And so I think this one is one that whatever your number is, might warrant even a little extra thought, and maybe even a little extra conversation with a friend about, how can we emotionally connect with each other, even if we can't physically be in the same space.
That's right. Well, and I'll just share, how my partner Kate and I are doing it. I mean, we have some relatively new friends, literally on the next street over, and they've been pretty much not quarantining, but they've not been going anywhere. They've been super safe. They've got kids in middle school, and so they're being extremely mindful of, what they're doing and how they're, all of the, the protection that we're all doing, right? And so we just decided that we were going to play cards together. So what we did, so we sit on their outside deck, or they also have this great screened-in porch. We got a big card table. We're all distanced from each other. New deck of cards, Purell on our hands, and we're playing cards. We walk in, like we give the virtual hug. Mm-hmm. So we're in close proximity. We feel as safe as we can possibly feel right now. And it is different sitting and looking somebody in the face for real, in the eyes, than it is doing it here on video, which is our next best thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I know you play Yahtzee with family members across, yes, Zoom, and we, as many families are, we're celebrating birthdays and anniversaries and all of those things, gathering people together. And it's not the same, and it's certainly better than nothing. I'm grateful for the technology that we have. And I love that Kathleen talked about a letter or a card, and my wife has been so good about doing that. And it really, I mean, there's nothing like receiving it. So absolutely.
There's not at all. And so we just, as we just start to finish up today, we just put this handout here, we talked about these, and we just invite you, take a minute, or maybe you have as we've gone through and talked about it today, but if you just take a moment or two and just consider what are one or two things in any aspects, and it doesn't have to be in every single one, just pick one. If you're just super mentally tired, what's one or two things that you could do that might just help you feel a little bit more rested mentally? And right? So the worksheet is here, or the play sheet, the experience sheet, as we like to call them. So it's there for you just as a, if you use it, great. If you don't use it, great. And I think, just maybe before we share just the last, thoughts here, Stace, just any Any questions that anybody has? I know we've got just a few people on here, but anybody have any questions or other thoughts? I know that we've had some folks in the chat just talking about a few things, but just anything else anybody has? And I don't know, Stace, if you have any other thoughts about anything,
Well, you
but
know, one of the things that we are so grateful for in the work that we get to do is we get to work with people like all of you, right? People who are really focusing so much of your attention and your energy and your love on other people. And that's what makes the world go round. And we hope that this has been just a little bit of a permission to think about yourself and how you can just continue with that oxygen mask. And I know you
that's
love
right.
this quote.
I love this quote. I mean, we love quotes, and this is really about, I think it sums up really what we've been talking about today. And I just hope that, if you're seeing this or you're listening, that you can really take in the essence of this, which is that you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. And so no matter who you are, no matter who you are caring for in your family or outside of your family, that just to please, please, please remember that you deserve that same love and affection that you so heartfully, so compassionately, so genuinely give to others, that you deserve that for yourself as well. And
That's
so
right.
to please remember that moments of time, micro practices, can really make a difference.
Yes.